So, what are the problems introverts are likely to face when they are pursuing their goals? Well, one that stands out is managing energy levels. Introverts are often focused on conserving their energy, whereas on the other hand, extroverts can be frivolous in the way they throw their energy into things. It's because they have an abundance of it and can therefore take risks in that area. So, how do you compensate for this? And how do you compete with people that are ultra high energy? To an extent, this is the tortoise and the hare story, if that's even the name of it. When you're contending with people who are extremely driven and fast-paced, you need to compensate by, even if you're moving slowly, never stopping, being steady, consistent, and relentless. What you may lack in intense bursts of energy, you can make up for in the long run. Some days, you're simply not going to have the energy you need to get everything you want done, especially if you're working around lots of people, because that will be extremely draining for you. So you'll often need to come to terms with the fact that there'll be highs and lows in this area. You might also see people shooting forward in life, but you just need to tell yourself, when it comes to these steps I need to take towards my goals, I'm going to be here working on them every day. You often hear that phrase, work smarter, not harder. Obviously, there are plenty of people out there that do both. There are intangible character traits like toughness and the ability to be persistent that are equally as important. Burnout. But it's important to find the right level of work. If you commit to consistency, but the amount of work you take on is too much, you'll burn out. There can be negative cycles of putting too much pressure on yourself and beating yourself up, the latter of which is always a bad move. If you calibrate it right, it should feel like a slow, smooth burn where you're seeing progress as opposed to an endless grind. The point is to leverage the ability that introverts have to deeply focus on things, be consistent, stay committed long term to whatever they're working on. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, but I'm an introvert and I'm never consistent. Firstly, there's never a bad time to start being consistent and committed. Secondly, being self-aware is obviously important. So if you know you're an introvert who's interested in pursuing many different things, constantly starts projects, then drops them in favor of new ones, gets bored working on the same thing over and over, that's fine. You simply have a different approach and different preferences. But still, you need to ask yourself, what is the benefit of this approach? The answer, I think, is simply variety. As I've said before, my advice for people who are naturally like this is to gain insight and knowledge in different areas, then cross-pollinate them with each other. In the same way that areas in between two different habitats often show the greatest amount of variety in terms of species, it's at that intersection between different areas, disciplines, or skills where most of the creativity happens. So if you're interested in a lot of things and you go down lots of different rabbit holes, as long as you make sure to learn something concrete, to get an insight, to catalogue and write down any realizations you have or knowledge gained. Although you might not become an expert in that thing, when you explore a different area, you can bring that knowledge with you, and suddenly you can see connections between those two areas that maybe even experts in those fields can't see. Create a lair. It doesn't have to be an evil lair, but in my experience, it does help. Most introverts want that space they can retreat to, that's purely their own. You might have your own house, or at this point it could simply be your bedroom. Either way, making that space as well designed as possible is an excellent move. Finding the balance between comfort, being easy to tidy, either by you or someone else, and also being able to function as a place of work is the aim here. As I've mentioned before, growth often comes when you leave your comfort zone, but most productivity comes from operating inside it. If there's something you can buy for your lair that makes you either work better or feel better, or both, I'd say it's almost always a good investment for introverts. If you're an introvert, then clicking the subscribe button would be a very good investment. And if you wanted to diversify your portfolio, feel free to check out the links below, which include a link to our Discord server, website where you can be typed by us, and also personal social media links, including an Instagram and a blog.